So for this particular talk, hopefully I'm going to make this work a little better. I should have a microphone, so it should hopefully pick up on sound a little better. We're going to talk about quests. And I know you've done this before because you did this in AP Seminar, but I figure we should probably do it one more time just in case. And I'm going to do it with some videos. Some of them are long, so I'll give you snippets of them. So quest is just an iteration process. It has actually nothing to do with a linear flow of ideas. It's what you need to do if you're actually conducting research. Research comes in two varieties. You have the lowercase r research and you have the capital R research. Lowercase r research is you looking something up. Capital R research, which is AP research, that is when you do some lowercase r research, we'll call it background information or a literature review. You find some background information, you notice, I have a puzzle and I can't actually solve the puzzle with what other people have already done. Seeing what is missing in the knowledge base, you start to ask some questions, and then you go about figuring out a way to answer that question. It could be you're going to study other people's works and synthesize it all together. You might actually have to go out and gather your own data. But you're not just taking what someone else has done and just writing a paper. It's you are creating your own product. And you do that by asking questions, by trying to understand stuff. You want to look at whatever your question is or topic is from multiple perspectives. You need to put a whole bunch of different ideas together, some of which are yours, some of which are going to be not yours, but try and synthesize it all together. And then you need to figure out a way to communicate it all. That's all a quest is. And rather than me telling you all about it, I have some videos. So part of you gets to watch me watch a video, which I'm sure will be super exciting. I should say, this one's about video game design, which has nothing to do with science, which, as most of you know, is my thing. But it's thought processes that go into what goes on to make a video game.
A project about the Civil War. They could write a research paper, do a class presentation, or create a learning game. Everyone wanted to create the game. One of the reasons for this is because learning game design begins by asking where the fun emerges in learning.
In school, I personally think that gaming, like game design, should be in every single grade. I think in kindergarten all the way through high school.
I couldn't really see how you make a game out of it right now, but I'm sure you could. Like, that wasn't a quiz-like thing. I could definitely see a lot of quizzy games that you can do that with, but those wouldn't be that fun, so.
Instead of starting with assumptions about what's fun to play, and then artificially grafting educational content onto the gameplay, designers challenge themselves to think about what's exciting and engaging about learning specific knowledge and ideas, developing skills, and making connections.
The challenge is that we all, when we start to make educational games, start to try to replicate school. So we have a thing that looks like a game, but we're not really allowed to be playful, and we've filled it full of all the stuff we want you to know. The way that I think a lot of educational game developers talk is that what they think that what the world needs is Grand Theft Calculus.
Like, I know Assassin's Creed, that's actually a lot to do with history, believe it or not. You learn about the city and you learn about, like, the historic people there and stuff.
But it's the process that's interesting. Wrong answers are part of getting the right answer. You're learning to think like a scientist, an artist, an engineer, all those things, a designer. What do you think about when you take a shower, when you go out for a run? When was it really fun? What's the really big aha moments? I mean, I try to come up with other ways of talking about it, because that's the game in what anyone does, is those moments when they really get excited, when they sort of, the process that they really enjoy engaging with.
But designers don't just consider where the fun emerges. They research the details of a topic or process, searching for hooks to inspire the creative context for a game. The intention is to develop a strategy to help players achieve learning goals.
We don't need to do the entire video because it's 5 minutes long. The next one's 10, and yeah, we're not doing all of it. The main point is you have a general idea, And then you go and you research about that general idea. You go little R research. You look up information about it and see what piques your interest. That's the big deal. Capital R research is you have an idea, you look to see what we know and what stands out to you. What makes you say, ooh, I want to know more about that, or what about this, or whatever happened about fill in the blank. That's the goal. That's what you want to find, is something where you want to learn more and become the person who knows more about it than anyone else. That's the first step. Once you have that, you're going to start to gather some information. But when you're reading up, you still need to figure out, well, what am I really reading? And journal articles, as some of you are aware, are really hard to read. Some hardcore edu-speak and intelligentsia stuff is not fun stuff to read. So usually you have to sit there, read it, and then try and figure out, so what are you trying to tell me? Sometimes they're trying to convince you of something, but they don't really have anything to back up their arguments, which does happen in peer-reviewed journals. So it does help if we look a little bit about the argument, because we need to understand arguments. We're not going to do the entire video.
Understanding arguments, identifying key parts and their relationship. Now that you know that critical thinking requires you to step back and carefully examine claims and arguments logically, we can dig a little deeper into what that means. As you know, critical thinking allows you to apply reason or logic to evaluate something you read, hear, or see. Most often, people use critical thinking to evaluate an argument someone has made. By thinking critically about an argument, you can analyze the argument and conclude whether you think it's right or wrong, strong or weak. But before you can analyze something you've heard or read, you must first know whether it's even an argument or not. Now, this may sound obvious or easy, but as you'll see, that's not always the case. So, what is an argument? First, it's important to recognize that an argument is made to address a specific problem or issue by offering a position on the problem or issue and providing reasons for that position. At its most basic, an argument consists of two parts. One or more premises, and two, a conclusion. These two parts must work together in order to offer a particular stance or position on an issue or problem and form an argument. In an argument, the premises supposedly provide the reasons the person has for thinking the conclusion is true. For example, a student tells her instructor, "My grandmother died, and I had to miss class to go to her funeral." The issue or problem at hand is whether the student should be excused from class. Now, the student believes the conclusion is yes, and offers a reason, attending her grandmother's funeral, to defend that conclusion. That reason is the argument's premise. The instructor can then evaluate whether she has offered a good argument or not. To evaluate means to do two things. First, decide whether the premise or premises are true or accurate, and second, determine whether the premises are logically related to the conclusion. In future modules, you'll learn more about this evaluation process. We're going to break down the definition of an argument by focusing on 4 key points. 1, the premise. 2, the conclusion. 3, the application of reason or logic. And 4, the relationship between premises and conclusions.
We're not going to go through all that, but you can hunt down the video yourself if you really felt like it. But that's what you need to do whenever you read papers, and determine whether or not that's actually something that is going to be useful for you, or if, no, this isn't what I thought it was. You can't just take a paper and say, oh yeah, that's what it is. It's kind of like with us in teaching. We can't just take any YouTube video and then say, oh yeah, well, this has to do with the topic, and just throw it in, because it might not work for us, even though that's not exactly talking about an argument, but still. You do need to actually look at what you're going to be using. One of the main reasons why you need to do that is things come at you from multiple sides. And one of the things that you should have learned in AP seminar with Dr. Lim was that nothing is as simple as being one-sided. There usually are multiple perspectives. And in this class, that's important too. So in your background, you're going to want to sit for whatever your paper topic is going to be. You want to argue, here's what we know from multiple perspectives. And when you are actually analyzing whatever data you've gathered, you're going to want to try and analyze it from multiple perspectives, because your one view might not be the one view. And this video here, which is like a minute long, does it perfectly. It's in British though, so. So how do we make sense of what we see and hear? Observe the following scene, which is shown from different angles.
An event seen from one point of view gives one impression.
What do you think happened? Obviously, you don't need to answer. But honestly, what do you think happened?
Seen from another point of view, it gives quite a different impression.
And now what's going on? Because suddenly the narrative changed.
But it's only when you get the whole picture you can fully understand what's going on.
The Guardian is a British newspaper, and they're saying, hey, look, we take multiple sides, therefore you can trust us. But you're going to need to do that type of stuff too. You need to give us a reason to buy into whatever you're going to be trying to claim through your paper. And what makes this even more difficult, much more so than in Dr. Lim's class in AP Seminar, is the fact that you are the one generating the data. You are that one who is having to create an argument that no one else has been making. And so you need to give us a reason to buy what happens, because you need to give us multiple perspectives. And this last one here deals with how do you stick ideas together, because that's probably the hardest part, I really think. We can come up with questions, we can find gaps in knowledge, we can argue multiple sides, people can do that. But it's, how do you come up with your own thoughts? And that's hard. And it's something that you can't get taught. You just have to figure it out for yourself. I'd like to say we can teach you how to do that, but we can't. It's, you have to develop it yourself, and you only do that by trying to do it. And so that's what this video deals with.
Have you ever given any thought to the way you process information? The truth is, you do it all the time. Not just online, but at home, at work, and in the conversations you have every day. You read a negative review for the latest Steven Spielberg movie. You hear from a friend that it's actually pretty good. You put both of those sources together and use them to form an opinion based on what you already know. You know you like Steven Spielberg, but maybe you're not really interested in the movie. You decide to wait till it comes out on DVD. Believe it or not,
or
there's
streaming.
a word for that. It's called synthesis. But for our purposes, it may be easier to think of it as putting things together in your head. Synthesis is something that happens naturally in everyday life. You hear or read about something new, in this case differing opinions about the latest Spielberg movie, then you file that information away in your own personal database. Also in that database are little bits of memory and other things that you've learned or experienced, all throughout your life. These things combine to form an understanding of the subject. This is also how you form an opinion on the subject. The same thing happens when you consume information online, for example, when you read an article or watch a video. But what if you had to form more than an opinion? What if you had to produce something tangible, like a blog post, a presentation, or a research paper for school? The process is remarkably similar. First, it wouldn't be right to just throw your research together, save it in a Word document, and call it a day. Your work should be like your opinions. Your work should be unique. Instead, think about your sources and start putting them together in your head. In this example, articles that talk about green living. Look for connections between the materials that might help you understand the subject a little better. Look for connections in your personal database. For example, any experience you have with recycling or saving energy at home. This will help you draw your own conclusions so you can eventually put your thoughts into your own words. That's synthesis. but really it's as simple as putting all the information together and combining it in order to create something new. Remember that, and your next writing project is sure to be a success.
That was easy. I have a master's degree, and a lot of teachers have master's degrees. And it depends on what type of master's degree that they got that determines whether or not this applies to them. Dr. Lim, he definitely had to do this because he has a doctorate degree. I had to do a research paper. Mine turned out to be 100 pages long. I'm sure Dr. Lim's was a lot longer than mine because he has a doctorate and I don't. So what I did, which is what you can see on the screen, is I had an idea, but then I had to go look up, and my idea was general. It was a very vague idea, like, oh, well, I'm kind of sort of interested in this. Then I started doing research about it, meaning reading through articles, coming up, seeing how the ideas are panning out, or, oh, well, this is also related to my idea, so start looking at it all. And you start to look to see what you can find, and then it's but no, I can't seem to find anything that answers this. I have a question that I can't seem to figure out. So my initial one dealt with EL students and learning through reading activities, as in that being the primary method of instruction instead of lecturing. So I went through, figured that out, I figured out a way to do it, I got my approval. I got my data, but I needed data from another teacher. Teacher never got the data, which meant I couldn't actually do the study, so then it became a start over. As in, it just totally fell apart. And then I had to come up with a different idea, and that was dealing with professional development with teachers, and in particular what we want for effective, or for us to feel like we had effective training. There's a lot of studies on what effective training is, but never what we need to perceive, what teachers need to perceive in order for the training to become effective. So that's the route I went. Got a whole new lit review, whole new set of methods, got a whole different approval, went about, I got it. I wrote the paper, I presented the paper, I got a lot of it shot down and told, well, are you sure that analysis works? Or you might want to rethink this. And then I had to start redoing the paper. And when I was done with that, presented it again. And then they said, yay, we like it. And then I got a master's degree. I went through the process of Quest, and I did it multiple times. I didn't die. Did it suck? Yeah, parts of it suck. But capital R research is something that requires a lot of effort. It really does. What we're aiming in here in this class is you're going to do capital R research, but you're going to pick something small. You're not going to write a 100-page book, because after about 20 pages I'm going to stop reading, and so will the College Board. So you're going to write a 20-page paper. That sounds like a lot. It really isn't. It really, really isn't, especially given how parts of it are going to be, here's the background of my thought, then here's what I actually want to do, and here's what I did, and then here are my data, and then the analysis. Most of it is just like writing a paper in other classes, just little itty-bitty papers that you just stick together. The part that will be unique for you will be taking your own data, then analyzing it and trying to find what are the limitations, what should I have done differently, what are my own flaws. You have to be able to acknowledge your own flaws. That's the hard part. But you can do it. You will do it, and you'll succeed. Video 1 for week 2 done. Oh God, it's a long one.